reading my story, Chasing Rainbows. Chapter 13, Atonement and a Celebration. Jess had listened intently as Kathleen related how much she had come to regret her hasty decision, but could see no way to be reunited with her daughter. "To be sure, it's a miracle finding you like this," Kathleen had told Jess as they sat together drinking tea in her garden. Jess had touched her mother's hand gently. "Oh, if you only knew how much I long to feel your arms about me. And the nights I cried myself to sleep in the dormitory, wishing so much to belong, to know I was loved," she had said wistfully. Kathleen cupped her two hands around Jess's face, gazed directly into her eyes. "We had the rest of our lives to get to know one another," she promised. "It's so wonderful to find you again, and I'm so delighted at the way you have turned out. That's enough for me. If you just give me a chance to make amends." Jess reached out and put her hand tentatively on Kathleen's cheek and stroked it tenderly. She felt herself warming towards Kathleen, and when she drew her into her arms, she offered no resistance. As she melted into her mother's tender embrace, all the hurt that had lain dormant within for so long was swept away on a whirlpool of emotion. Both women wept in each other's arms. Suddenly all the barriers were lifted, and two spirits reached out to comfort each other. Kathleen made no attempt to conceal the pent-up guilt inside. She was, after all, aware she could do little to recover the love her daughter had been denied. So she simply enfolded Jess within her arms, and both women were lost in their own reflections, painfully aware there was no easy way to make amends for those lost years. Both had suffered in their own ways, yet despite this, each of them was finding strength in one another, attempting to soothe away the hurt that had festered within for so long. Jess wondered if she could ever accept Kathleen as her mother, yet she was trying hard to come to terms with her emotions. Indeed, she was aware of a growing affinity towards her mother, which did provide a glimmer of hope for the future. Only time would tell. As for Kathleen, well, she could only aspire for Jess's friendship. After all, it was no more than she deserved. Yet deep within she cherished a dream that they would grow closer as time healed the hurt. Meanwhile, plans were set in motion for the wedding, which was to be a quiet affair, with Louisa as bridesmaid and George, an old friend of Gerald's, to be best man. The two men had remained in touch since boyhood. The local priest, Father O'Hara, was to perform the bridal ceremony at St. Mary's and St. Joseph's Catholic Church in Totnes. Albert and his best pal Andrew were to act as witnesses. Since Kathleen knew no one from the village, Sarah had invited a couple of ladies with whom she was acquainted. On their return to Staverton, arrangements were set up to lunch in the private function room at the Ring o' Bells Inn. Afterwards, the couple were to honeymoon in Ireland, as Kathleen had not visited her birthplace since her childhood. On the day of the wedding, Kathleen looked radiant, wearing a dress of elegant cream lace. Delicate red rosebuds adorned her beautifully arranged hair. She carried a pretty bouquet mixed with red roses and carnations. Gerald wore his best grey suit, sporting a red rose in the lapel of his jacket. They made a handsome couple as they knelt at the altar to take their vows. Louisa looked delightful in a dress of crepe organza, embroidered with tiny red rosebuds. A pretty satin bow adorned her golden hair, and she carried a dainty basket of red and white miniature rosebuds mixed with wild freesia. Jess felt her heart swell with pride as she watched her young daughter skip about in excitement. Jess had coaxed her to eat a little breakfast, yet she was far too thrilled at the prospect of being bridesmaid to do more than nibble on a piece of toast and drink a little milk. As Kathleen and Gerald took their vows, a few of the local villagers gathered outside the church. Much to their delight, the newlyweds were showered with confetti and rice as they stepped outside. Everyone cheered and wished them well as they climbed aboard the waiting carriage. After a splendid meal of ham salad, followed by a delicious raspberry trifle, all washed down with sparkling white wine, George, the best man, gave a brief speech. Then it was Gerald's turn to speak. He rose to his feet. Gazing upon his bride with love and pride shining in his eyes, he began his speech. On behalf of my beautiful wife and myself, I should like to thank all present for sharing our special day, most especially our daughter Jess, for finding it in her heart to reach out and rejoice in our union. I recall there was a time when I wondered if I would ever find the words to express how joyful it makes us to behold our beautiful daughter here before us. My heart is too full to say much. Indeed, had it not been for the prompt actions of my beloved son Albert. He paused, tears glistening in his eyes, as he recalled how Albert had rescued Jess and his adorable granddaughter. Gerald wiped his eyes and attempted to clear his throat. Kathleen and I are indeed blessed to be surrounded by such a wonderful family. God bless you all, Gerald concluded, his voice hoarse with emotion. He sat down and kissed his bride fondly. George, the best man, raised his glass. Let us all toast a happy couple to Kathleen and Gerald. A champagne cork popped, glasses were filled, and wild cheering broke out as everyone toasted the bride and groom.